Hello everyone, this is Devin once again. Today we will be going over how to attach wheels and spacers to our axles. On screen right now is an image of what the chassis should look like after today's video. And on screen right now are the timestamps once again. As usual, if this is your first time watching, please don't skip ahead. Otherwise, you can feel free to skip ahead to any of the times listed on screen. So as usual, open up the assembly that we made in the last video. I'm just gonna skip ahead because you should know how to do this by now. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is we are going to place down a 4-inch Omni wheel. So if you know how to do this, you can pause now and do it for yourself. Okay, so we're gonna go to the place button. We are in standard shaft, so we're gonna go out, and we are in motion, so I will go down to wheels and scroll down to find the 4-inch omnidirectional wheel, press open, and I am only going to place one. I'll explain why in a bit. So once you place it down, press escape. And you will notice if you look at this wheel, let me zoom in, that this square is actually bigger than the axle. And just to prove it to you, I'm going to measure. That's about 0.226, and from here to here is 0.105 inches, meaning this is about like twice as big. So what we need to do for these wheels is we need to put in the shaft inserts. So if you know how to navigate the library and find two metal shaft inserts, you can pause and do it for yourself. Okay, so as usual, go to the Assemble tab, press Place. The metal shaft inserts are not in wheels, so we go back up, and they are actually within just the motion folder, under all the other subfolders. Because they're used so often with multiple things, they're just in the motion folder in general. So you should scroll down and find the metal shaft insert. It should have like a square hole, not the plastic one with the circular hole, the metal one with the square hole. Press open, and we are going to place down 2. And there we have it. We have the parts ready to prepare a wheel. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to put these two inserts into the wheel. So we will be basically just using the mate feature, no inserts. So if you are comfortable with the mate feature, you can try and insert them one on each side. So one of these will go on top and one of these will go on the bottom. Just make sure that the circular flat face right here is facing upwards. So I'll quickly stop now and let you pause if you want to try for yourself. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to move these off to the side just to make it easier for us. And I will pan over and zoom in. So as usual, we're going to go to Constraint, going to press Mate, and the first thing I like to do is I like to go to this little lip that will be touching the wheel, and I will click on it, and then click on the bottom face of the wheel, just to make sure that these are inserted first. Press apply, and then the next thing we can do is we can mate any of these sides with any of the other sides, just whichever ones are visible, because it doesn't matter, it'll rotate into place. So I will click this face of the insert and this face of the wheel, press OK. Well, right here we need to mate this face with the face on the other side that we can't see right now. So I'm gonna zoom out, quickly drag these apart just so I can see the faces, and then we're going to go back to Constraint, we're on mate, we're gonna go up to the face, click it. I will use the cube to rotate. Again, I have to zoom in, press the face, and then press OK. And we will do this on the other side, so I'm just gonna zoom out. Oh, first I'm gonna wiggle this around and make sure that this is stable, which it indeed is. So once again, we're gonna go to Constraint Mate, select the little lip portion, gonna use the cube to go to the bottom corner, going to move my mouse towards the wheel and zoom into that location, and then mate it to the wheel, press apply. If I haven't explained this before, the difference between pressing OK and apply will literally apply the mate. However, it won't close it out. When you press OK, it closes it out. When doing mates, it's helpful to press apply instead of OK. However, you do have to press OK when working with iMates, because if you press apply, the iMates will disappear from screen, and you will have to press escape anyway to re-click it. But anyway, so once again, we want to mate the side faces, so click one, click the other, then we'll press OK because we want to exit. We'll zoom out. Once again, we'll drag this off to the side, and then we will select the faces we want to mate. We want the left face relative to us to mate with the right face relative to the insert. Once they're snapped in place, press OK. I'm just gonna go home, quickly wiggle the wheel around and make sure the inserts are in place. And once that's done, we are ready for the next portion of this video. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to copy and paste these wheels. As you saw from the previous segment, in trying to mate the inserts for 3 other wheels would be very annoying. However, we can just copy and paste. So to do that, we just first need to drag this off to the side, and then while I'm clicking and holding, a red box should appear. Once I cover the thing I want to copy and paste with the red box, I unclick, and you will notice that they're all selected, and to verify you just go to the left tree, and you will see that the 2 shaft inserts and the Omni wheel are selected. That is good. The thing about copy and paste is that copy and paste only keeps the constraints between the parts you selected. So let's just say, for example, this wheel were constrained to the chassis in some way. Because I don't have the chassis selected, it will not save that constraint if we had it. However, the constraints between the Omni wheel and the shaft inserts will be retained and copied because I selected them. In other words, the constraints between the parts I selected will be copied, but any other constraints will not be. So we can take advantage of this to create 3 new wheels. So you can right click on the wheel, press copy, and then go to a blank spot of the screen, right click, press paste, and then another part of the screen, right click, paste, another part of the screen, right click, paste. And now you have 4 completed wheels. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the mate tool constraint again to put the wheels on the axles. So if you're familiar with the mate tool, then just pause the video right here and do it for yourself. But here's a warning. I want you to mate it so the wheel still slides on the axle. The reason for this is because we still need to add the spacers, and the spacers is what's gonna keep it from moving. So you can now pause the video and try it for yourself. Okay, so welcome back. We will begin by going to move these wheels to their respective locations just to make it easier. Next thing we're gonna do, gonna go to Constraint Mate. We'll zoom in onto the first wheel and then select the inside of the insert that we just did, and we will now mate it to the flat side of the axle and press OK. You will notice that the wheel is in a interesting orientation. Let me just angle my camera. However, it doesn't matter. We know that this top face is constrained with the top face of the axle. So as long as we constrain the side faces correctly, we're good. So on that note, we are going to press constrain, zoom in and select the side face of the insert, and then select the side face of the axle. And as you can see, it rotates into place. I press OK. I'm going to go home, zoom in, and just notice that the wheel slides on the axle. This is good. We will do the same thing for the other ones. So zoom in, constrain, mate, select one face, select the top face, press OK. I'll drag the wheel again, press constrain, side face, OK. Wiggle test, zoom out, zoom in, pan a little bit, constrain, top face of the insert, and then top face of the axle. Press OK, drag this, constrain, side face of the insert, side face of the axle, press OK. Once again, wiggle test, zoom out, zoom in, top face of the insert, top face of the axle, press apply, side face of the insert, side face of the axle, press OK, and wiggle test. Press home, and there we go. We are now ready to put our spacers in. Okay, so for the next part of the video, I am going to show you two different methods, or more like two different workflows of trying to insert spacers. So the first one I'm going to show you is the one I like to use when I don't know my spacing. It'll be a bit longer, but it's good if you're trying to use CAD to plan out your spacing. And then the second method I'm going to show you, I typically use for when I know my spacing in advance. So I will start with the first method right now. So for the first method, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to place down a shaft collar. I'm starting with the shaft collar because every shaft needs a shaft collar to keep it from sliding out. So we will go to place, and since we are already in motion, all we have to do is go to shaft hardware, and inside of shaft hardware, there should be shaft collar with insert. We want shaft collar with insert because it'll have the little screw inside the hole. It doesn't show it in the image, but it'll have it. Press open, and we'll place it down once. And now that we have this shaft collar, we will now be using the insert tool. So the first thing we're going to do is go to constraint, press insert. So be very careful when inserting shaft collars. When you're hovering over the hole, you see there's a smaller circle and a bigger circle. You want to select the bigger circle. The reason you want to select the bigger circle is because you want this circle to be inserted, not the inside circle. Otherwise, the shaft collar will be going through the bearing flat. So once you have that, just change your camera, and we will insert it onto the bearing flat. You will have to use your cube to pivot your camera a little bit, and then select the edge of the bearing flat, and then press OK. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to add a 0.5 spacer, because just from the holes it looks like I can fit a 0.5 spacer. We have a lot to work with, so I'll just move this out of the way just so I can see things. And then I'm going to place. I don't want to be in shaft hardware, so I go up, and I will go to spacers, and I will go to the 0.5-inch nylon spacers, which are the normal ones. The high-strength spacers are for the high-strength axle, so we want the nylon, the white nylon ones. So we will press open, place one down, press escape, and once again we will be using the insert tool. Press constraint, insert, select the correct edge that we're gonna insert, and once again on the bearing flat, not the bearing flat, the shaft collar, make sure you get the outside edge, and the arrow should be pointing out of the bearing flat. So just click it and press OK. And once again, we don't know what our spacing is going to be. So I'm just going to drag the wheel here and kind of just guess when it touches. And yeah, it looks like that's a good place to insert the wheel. So I'll just drag the wheel out, move my camera, and then this time we're not going to use insert. We're just going to use mate because this wheel is already centered on the axle. So we're going to press constraint, select the face of the insert. The insert is what's going to be touching the spacer, not any other part of the wheel. So watch out for that. Gonna move my camera. Again, adjust the camera with the cube. Press the face of the spacer, and then press OK. Alright, now that we have that, we are going to add the next spacers. Okay, so now that we know where our wheel is going to be relative to the sides, we now need to figure out what the remaining space is going to be. So this will require some mental math, but bear with me. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to inspect and measure. If you don't remember the measure tool, don't worry. I'll explain it again. So we will want to select two faces we want to find the distance between. Because we want to know how much spacing we need between these two, I'm going to select the bearing flat and the insert. And as you can see, it's 1.089 inches. So I know that we have 0.5 inches, so 0.5 inch spacers, so we'll just use two 0.5 inch spacers, but then that'll leave us with the 0.089 inches left. The closest spacer to this is a 1/16, which on the top of my head is 0.0625. Yes, there will be a little bit of space left, but that's okay. When building a chassis, you want a little bit of wiggle room. So I don't expect you to be able to just know what spacers you're gonna need on the top of your head. I've done this for so long that I've memorized the spacer lengths. If you need to, just do the same process that we did, where we put a big spacer, insert it, and if it fits, add another one. If it doesn't fit, go down a size. But to speed things up, I'll put the correct spacers. So we'll X out of measure, zoom out, and we will now place 2.5 nylon spacers, boom, boom, and then we will insert them as usual by selecting the edge and then selecting the bearing flat, and once again we're gonna constrain, insert, select the edge, and then select the edge of the spacer as well. And you will see that it'll be very hard to get in here. So what I am going to do is I am going to right click on the chassis, and notice that it's highlighted on the left. I'm going to right click on the left hand side where it's highlighted and uncheck visibility. This means that I can actually see more things. So I will now add the 1/16 spacer, which for your reference is 0.0625 inches. And once again, we're going to insert just like usual. And as you can see, as expected, there's a little gap, but that's good. And then we want to see the wheel again. So if you scroll down on the left model menu, you will see that the 4-inch Omni wheel is grayed out, which means it's invisible. Simply right click and check visibility once again. And there we go. We have the first method complete. So as you can see, the last method is kind of tedious because we're basically just guessing. Like, I just guessed that we should put a 0.5 spacer on the right side, and it just so happened to work out. That's fine, but if we want to go faster, we want to know in advance, because unlike last time, we were placing it, inserting, placing, insert. Now that we know exactly the spacing we need, we can just prepare the spacing on the side in advance. So what we are going to do is we are going to place all the spacers we need. So if you remember the spacing and you are comfortable with placing down parts, you can pause now and do it for yourself. Remember, we want 3.5-inch spacers, one 0.0625-inch spacer, and a shaft collar. Okay, so when I open it up, I'm already selected on the 0.625, so I'm gonna place one of them, and then I'm going to place 3 of these, and I will place a shaft collar under shaft hardware, shaft collar with insert, press open. So now, instead of inserting it onto the axle, we are just going to insert the spacers together right here. So we're going to use the insert tool to combine the 0.5 spacer with the shaft collar, because we know we need that on one side, so we'll put that to the side. And the next thing we know is that these 3 spacers are going to be inserted together, so I'm just going to use the insert tool to select the edges to insert. And now we know we want this exact spacing on all 4 of these, or the 3 other ones. So let's use copy and paste. Right click, copy, right click, paste, right click, paste. And now the spacers are prepared, and we can continue. So now we don't have to do the repetitive place, insert, place, insert. We just need to insert everything together. So let's do that. You can pause here if you want to try inserting these yourself. Okay, so because we've done insert for so long, I'm gonna go fast as usual. Constraint, insert, gonna select the top of the shaft collar, and then we're gonna put it on the bearing flat. Press OK. Oh, and before that, I'm just gonna drag these wheels out of the way so we can see things better. Constraint, insert, shaft collar, make sure it's the top one, onto the bearing flat. Press apply, shaft collar, bearing flat, apply. Now, spacer, bearing flat, apply. Spacer, rotate, bearing flat, apply. I have to rotate to find a spacer again. Spacer, rotate, bearing flat, apply. And now, the only thing we have to do is use the mate constraint. Again, you can pause here to do the mate constraints on the spacers and the wheels. Okay, constrain, select the face on the insert, and select the face on the spacer, press apply, face on the spacer because it's already facing me, face on the insert, press apply, face on the insert, and then I actually selected the wrong face. If you find yourself selecting the wrong face, press cancel. Constrain, face on the spacer, then you do this face on the insert, press OK. Oh yeah, don't forget to save. So just as a final wrap up for this video, the first method was basically a guess and check, where you place down a spacer and you insert it and you check the spacing. If it works, you put the wheel on and then continue on the other side. The second method is we prepared the spacers on the side and then just added them all to the chassis, which was much faster because we had everything prepared and we can take advantage of copy and paste. Do whichever method you want. I just happen to use those methods, the first one for when I don't know, and the second one for when I do know the spacing. It doesn't matter what you use, whatever works for you. I just wanted to show what I use and when I use it. But other than that, congratulations, you just CAD'd your first chassis. So I hope you learned a lot, and you should be proud of yourself. And until next video, have a great day.